Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Pemko number 434ANBL automatic door bottom with a nylon brush insert, mill finish aluminum, and a mortise mount. So this is an automatic door bottom, and the job that it does, it automatically seals the bottom of the door. Probably multiple times in this video, I'm going to say that automatic door bottoms are a very elegant solution to sealing the bottom of the door. Let's get right into it. The 434 is classified as a mortise style unit. That means that you are going to mortise the bottom rail of your wood door so that the entire cavity is prepped to receive the housing. Okay, got a little step there. I would not go so far as to make two routes, but you sure can if you love your router. By all means do that. They have a dimension of 27/32 of an inch in the width of the channel, and then 1 5/16 height. And let's test that now. So 27/32. 27/32, 5/30. Yeah, so you know, 7/8 of an inch. Very close to it. Then an overall height of the channel, holding it upside down, 1 5/16 they say. Yeah, that is indeed the case. What I would like to do is probably, I always like to route certain, well, when it's possible, I like to have the hardware in hand. Not always. I do like to put a caliper on the things and double check the dimensions based on the template. If I was going to route for this and I couldn't wait, I would probably just opt for like a 15/16 wide channel, but you're also working with the tools that you have. You could probably get away with a 1 inch wide as well. You could use a 1/2 inch and just, of course, work off your center line and mortise it back and forth to get that proper sort of size. The depth, 1 5/16. You're going to leave, you're going to route it just a 16th in addition to what's required, and you're in real good shape with that. So a router is obviously the way that I would prefer to go with doing this sort of work. Doing it any other way would be, I'm not sure how else you might accomplish it. This is going to be intended for a wood door, really, where you're going to have a full mortise mount. But keep in mind, this is intended for non-fire rated wood doors, especially when you're doing it after the fact. If you are prepping this for a fire rated wood door, you won't want to do that in the field because you will compromise the fire-rated integrity of the construction of the wood door. You're simply going to want to order your wood door or wood doors from the factory mortised properly for this, because they're going to put the internal componentry there to accept a mortise like this and still maintain a fire rating. So keep that in mind. This is going to be an elegant solution because it is concealed. You're not going to see this item whatsoever when it's installed. Well, unless, of course, you get on the ground and you press your head to the floor and look underneath the door, but otherwise it's completely concealed. That certainly makes it elegant. As a result of the fact that this is mortised and concealed, it's only available in the A. So dissecting the part number, 434 is representative of this profile of mortised type automatic door bottom. The A means mill aluminum finish on the aluminum part, and the NB nylon brush is going to be inferred there. NBL is the 2 rows of nylon brush that's inferred. Now the balance of the information below this video really that we've not already covered is fire rated, air seal rated, and BHNA certified, the National Builders Hardware Manufacturers Association, and it's certified with the governing body, let's say. Why is this elegant? Well, it's elegant because it's only doing the job of sealing the door when the door is closed. Okay, we'll talk more about how that works in a moment. It's elegant because when the door is open, its housing is tucked up into the drop bar, I should say, with the nylon brush, is tucked up into the housing. An application for that would be, well, maybe a rug. You have a front door of a home and you've got a mat or a rug in front of the door when you walk in. Any door sweep that you're going to have installed on the door is going to have an awful tight, time navigating or negotiating something that's installed inside the home that the door has to swing over, or a shoe that's been left there. That's very common. If you've seen those door bottoms with the fins that get stapled to the bottom of the door, which are very common. Those have a lifespan of, well, 3 years in my estimation. They fail because things get kept behind the door. Shoes aren't put away, and you push that door open and you just force it over, and that will destroy, that will damage the traditional sort of door sweep or stapled on door bottom. If you have a high polished wood floor, you might have some sort of floor, terrazzo or marble. You don't want a door sweep rubbing across that. Not that it would, but the fact of the matter is this is tucked up in the housing and not making contact with the floor whatsoever. This can also help compensate for a sill that's not level. Now that's pretty smart. Door bottoms, door sweeps really can't do that. An automatic door bottom generally can help compensate for a sill that's not level, or maybe a door that's not plumb. Let's get into it. How does it work? Well, first of all, you have to tell us the hand of the door. There's nothing preventing you from taking this side and putting it over here or putting it over here. The fact of the matter is this: after selling automatic door bottoms from Pemko for several years, they continue to ask for the hand when I don't provide it. And I just gave up. So I tell them the hand of the door all the time. There is a link below this video to the handing chart, which will allow you to review how a door swings. And if you have any questions on how a door swings, live chat us, call us, email us, whatever you'd like to do, so that we can make sure that we're giving Pemko the proper information in terms of the handing. Now, how does it work? You're going to have an end that's going to look like this. This is going to be noted because it's got this bolt sticking out of the end of it. The other end is to be noted because it does not have that bolt. Now that bolt is going to be installed only on the hinge side of the door. So what you've got is you've got your door off, you've routed it. Just quickly how I would go about doing it, I would certainly use a heavy horsepower plunge router. I would probably, if I did more than one of these, I would probably get a piece of aluminum angle and I would bolt it right to my base. I would be modifying my parts to do this. And then I would lay my entire router down flat onto the door with that angle, okay, on the face of the door. And you're going to want to protect the face of the door so as not to score or scratch the face of the door as you move the tool down. But that flat angle is going to allow you to rest the tool down, and you're going to push it to the end of the door with your base. You're going to have a 90-degree corner. You're going to insert your bit down from the, working from right to left, and mortise your door. Your center line of the aluminum angle and the center line of the bit need to be proper and appropriate. It's helpful if you do these routinely, because then you can make a fixture for doing them. If you're doing it just once, you're going to have to set up a template for it and just make that happen. But that's how I would go about doing it. And if you want to discuss other methods of mortising the door for your automatic door bottom, feel free to reach out to me. We'd be happy to review that with you. Now, you've mortised the door. You've got the door still off the hinges. You're going to put this on the hinge side of the door, and there's a reason. We're going to go over it in a moment. This is on the hinge side of the door. You're probably going to want to turn it clockwise, and what will happen is it will draw it in a little bit. Just let it stick out maybe a 3/16 of an inch. You're going to put this in. You're going to make sure that it's the proper length. Speaking of the proper length, all of the automatic door bottoms are manufactured from long pieces, long extrusions, long parts. They're assembled. Whether you order a 36-inch for a door that's 35 3/4 is completely your determination. But the fact of the matter is, I would suggest that you simply order it the proper length that you're going to need it. The bottom line is this. Automatic door bottoms, while they can almost always be trimmed, they cannot always be trimmed. They usually can, but not in all cases. And if they can be trimmed and they're less than 36 inch, that trim amount is probably quite small. That logic varies with automatic door bottom to automatic door bottom. What is permissible changes with door bottoms. The rules do change. I'm an advocate of you ordering the size that you know that you're going to need. Take time and measure the doors. If you're dealing with a 35 and 13/16 door that's got a little bit of bevel to it, I probably might order just, a 35 3/4 inch door and just place it in and be done with it. File down the sides that I'd need to file down, or whatever the case is. Or I might just go with 35 3/4 or whatever the small side, 35 and 11/16 or whatever the small side is. And I'll explain why you can undersize it marginally so you're not contending with a bevel on a door. Order it the right size. If you had to cut it down, you would only trim from the opposite of the hinge side. There's going to be a decal that's even going to be included on the bolt side. You don't cut that side, okay? We're going to talk about that more in a minute. If you're not ordering it the right length, you can trim it down. This model can be trimmed not more than 2 inch. Not more than 2 inch. And if it's less than 24 inch, it can really only be trimmed down to 1/2 inch, okay? There are, of course, times when it's just not possible for you to determine what the net size is to be, and you do have to cut it down. So keep that in mind. If it's 26 inch and over, you've got 2 inch. And really what a telltale sign is on the end of the unit is this pin that's on the lock side. If this is the hinge side, this has to be the lock side. They're going to want you to stay away from that. So there are 2 inches coming in here. This happens to be a 30-inch model, so there are 2 inches permissible on this. So you're going to want to be clear of that pin, okay? Now, let's get to it. How does this work? You've got it installed, you've got it cut the size and installed however you arranged it at. You are going to get some trim head, very short drywall screws. Those will go through the holes that you can see down the unit. You're going to install this towards the hinge side of the door. Pre-drill your holes, install your screws, hang your door. Door is open. This, 3/16 of an inch, no more. Put it into 1/8 maybe. As you close the door, this, when it's over here on the hinge side, is going to ultimately make contact with the rabbet of the frame. And speaking of that, you'll install this when you're all said and done. You're going to install this flat undercut head, maybe number 10 screw at the exact point on the wood frame, if it's a wood frame, where the bolt is going to make contact with, so that you don't over time create a divot in your wood frame. When you get that door practically closed and then you push it all the way closed, that bolt, when it makes contact with the frame, will have nowhere to go but in. That bolt is connected to a flat spring. That flat spring runs all the way over to here. There's probably a couple of them. When the flat spring is compressed by pushing that bolt in, it causes the flat spring to belly. The bellying action causes the bottom to drop. That's how it works. When you open the door, tension on the bolt head is released. The bolt head is allowed to project, snapping the drop bar back up into the housing. Okay. Now, let's exaggerate. Let's not exaggerate. There's no exaggeration. Let's demonstrate. I've got the bolt turned out about 5/16 of an inch. My finger is going to represent what happens when it makes contact with the frame. I'm going to push it in. And as I push it in, you can see that it drops. Now, it's normal that it drops unevenly. This is where the uneven or unlevel sill comes into play. My thumb is going to represent the sill, and what will happen is it will restrict it, and then it will drop down over here as well, giving you the ability to tailor against that sill that may not be exactly level. The greater the projection of the bolt, the greater the amount of travel when it's pushed in, the greater the amount of drop. That dimension is a range from 1/8 of an inch to 3/4 inch. The maximum drop is 3/4. Okay? So keep that in mind. You're going to have 1/8 of an inch because it's going to stick down 1/8 of an inch when it's installed. That's super elegant. Okay? It's going to tolerate that range. It's going to do so fairly well on a gap that's not even. And it's going to tuck back up when it's done. What you'll do is when you get that initially tested, get down and look and see when the door is closed where your seal is. You want to make a seal across the entire sill, but just a seal. You do not want unnecessary amount of force on the bolt projecting into the housing, pushing down even further on the drop bar. And this, by the way, is the drop bar. This housing here, and I'm snapping with the 2 lines of bristle installed. That's the drop bar. Okay. The reason you don't want a lot of pressure installed on that is because You want, as soon as the door starts to open, that the drop bar is retracted, because you don't want to drag that loose drop bar over a sill or over anything, because it will damage the unit. Okay? You want to push down, and that's it. Now that's elegant as well, because you're not wearing out with friction your seal material. All you do is pushing down. Now bristle like this is incredibly common because it's appropriate for irregular surfaces. If you had carpeting, you're going to want to use a bristle, because those bristles will really get into the nooks and crannies, so to speak. Okay? If my fingers were to emulate an irregular surface, it's a poor demonstration, but they will literally contour themselves over, over a fluted top threshold, or a funny sort of situation. You might have a pitted concrete, pitted limestone sill that's resting right onto the bottom of it. Lots of applications where you'd have that. Bristle is good for those applications. Bristle is also good because it allows people who are here's the scenario. Restaurant business, they're inspected constantly, obviously. The inspector is looking for daylight under the door. Bristle is great to sealing out daylight. The logic is, if it seals out daylight, it's sealing out everything else. And to the inspector, if it seals out daylight, it's sealing out the critters as well. So, extension of the logic, a bristle material is a very good option. Now, speaking of the insert material, you can get the 434. You can also get a sponge type rubber material, flexible, lot of surface area, sponge type. You can also get like a silicone based material, but they call it their PK. Pemko is what it's called. It's a proprietary sort of silicone type material that you'll use a lot, that you'll see very often. I would use nylon brush for the irregular surface. I'd probably opt to use sponge EPDM for most other things, because it's thicker, it's denser. I might opt to use a silicone seal when I was looking to do sound attenuation a little bit more, because it has air pockets that are there, and Pemko to air to Pemko to air to Pemko will really help retard the transmission of sound. A lot of people will use that material because it's effective, is the bottom line. Okay, sound studios. So we've talked about your drop. The amount of drop is going to be related. The bolt projection is related to the amount of drop, and you're going to set it so that you just make contact. You're going to test it. Once you're done with that, you're basically done. The last thing to do is you're going to get a couple of end plates. You can guess which one goes on which side. Obviously, the bolt side is going to just trim off your installation so that it looks complete and finished from the edge of the door. And you're obviously going to see these all the time on hotel doors. And the blank plate will go on the lock side. We'll get screws to hold that material in as well. And they are just buried down in here with the rest of the screws. Typical material. Now, if I've sold 10,000 door bottoms, if I've sold probably a lot more than that, one out of those times there will be a complaint. And the one complaint I've heard, and I only mention it because it's been relayed to me, and I acknowledge it, I don't see it as a reason to offset all the clear advantages, is this. You hear that clanking? When the door is opened, that's going to clank back up to the housing. And you do hear that. You do. There's no doubt. Again, to me, it's not anything that outweighs all the clear advantages of an automatic door bottom, but I mention it. Pemko has models that will significantly attenuate that sound as well. There is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up the full-line Pemko product catalog and review all things automatic door bottom, the surface mount, the semi-mortise mount, the full mortise mount, wood door style, hollow metal style, material that's going to be intended for specific purposes like sound-rated doors. Now, there is a link below this video to the installation instructions, and page 1 is just an overview. Page 2 talks about cutting it should you need to. If you need to, you're going to want to be real careful, You're going to want to slide the bristle out because the retainer that's here is steel. You're not going to want to try to cut that on a chop saw. I wouldn't cut any of this on a chop saw. I'd carefully tug that out, and I would snip it with aviation, with end cutters. And then I would carefully cut this with a hacksaw, is what I would do. Okay. Looking or summarizing the installation instructions, sizing it, being careful when you're cutting it. Reinsert the brush so that it is flush or up to a 1/16 of an inch shorter than the end of the drop bar and case. What they're saying there is, on the lock side, it's permissible to leave it flush, and it's also permissible to kick it in a 1/16, because imperceptibly that bar doesn't drop straight down. It actually drops like this. So leaving a 1/16 of an inch shy on the lock side would be permissible as well. They admonish you in bold font not to over adjust the plunger. We discussed that. Not too much pressure, just light compression. And the balance, we've basically covered everything else that's there. You're going to want to read through it, obviously, before you install it. And the crucial part is just getting it sized. And once you've got it sized, get it on the door and test it. It's really that simple. So the links are the handing chart, the installation chart, the final link to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up the full line Pemko catalog and review all things weather stripping related from them. I'm partial to Pemko, and it's because, well, lots of reasons. They've got exceptional customer service, exceptional technical support, the broadest, widest spectrum of weather stripping available from a single manufacturer, and they've got great, predictable, reliable lead times. And I just like the people that work there, and it's because they're professional in every regard. Okay. If you have any questions on the Pemko 434ANBL automatic door bottom with a nylon brush insert, or any other Pemko product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.